Hello, and welcome back to Cattails with Kathy Palmer. Behind the cameras, running everything, today we have Ken Stomsky. So welcome to a new story that I have for you that to me is very special. Everyone knows that Thanksgiving is coming, and we've heard the story about the Pilgrims. There are a few things about the Pilgrims, though, that I'd like to share with you. First of all, they were not the first colonists to settle in America. We already had Dutch colonies, French colonies, and Spanish colonies here. And they were not even the first group of people to celebrate Thanksgiving. And furthermore, we're not even really sure that Pilgrims ate turkey on Thanksgiving. We do know, according to the journals, that the men were sent out to hunt fowl. That might have included turkeys. It might also have included geese, ducks, and believe it or not, swans. The first Thanksgiving probably had a lot of venison, a lot of eels, a lot of fish, a lot of lobsters, and so forth. But I'm going to share with you a story that is true about Thanksgiving, and I will bet you don't know this story. And it's about a woman named Sarah Hale. Have you ever heard of her? Well, I want you to make sure that when you're done with this story, you share it with your friends and your family. This is the story about Sarah Hale, who really gave us Thanksgiving as we know it today. You can tell from looking at the cover that she wasn't born today. She was born a while ago. So let's go back. You think you know everything about Thanksgiving, don't you? How the Native Americans saved the Pilgrims from starving. Yes, we've all heard that story, that the Native Americans came in, helped the Pilgrims plant, and get through that first summer. We know that story. We also know that at the end of the summer in November, they held a big feast to celebrate and say thank you. And they might have served turkey and cranberry and pumpkin. Well, listen up, folks, because I have a news flash for you. Newsflash, we almost lost Thanksgiving as we know it today. It almost didn't come to pass. It could have been canceled. You didn't know that, did you? But it's really true. And this is going way, 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 way back when all of the ladies wore long skirts and all the men wore tall hats. Thanksgiving was fading away. Oh, sure. People in New England celebrated Thanksgiving. They'd roast a turkey and they'd invite their friends over. But Thanksgiving wasn't being done all over the country. It wasn't being celebrated in the South or the Midwest or the Atlantic states. In fact, most people ignored Thanksgiving altogether as a holiday. And so what was needed was a superhero. Oh, wait. No. Not this kind of guy. No, he's not exactly the superhero we're talking about. Thanksgiving needed a real superhero. Somebody who was smart, somebody who was brave, somebody who really knew how to make a difference. And that difference, folks, was a woman named Sarah Hale. Now, when you look at Sarah Hale, she certainly doesn't look like your idea of a superhero. She was just an ordinary lady, very dainty, very small, very polite, very well-mannered, but never underestimate a lady. Sarah Hale was every inch the superhero. Not only did she fight for Thanksgiving, but Sarah Hale also fought for playgrounds, schools, historic monuments. She argued about spanking. She argued about pie for breakfast. She argued about dull stories. She argued about very serious things like slavery. She was a woman who knew her own mind and wasn't afraid to give her opinion where it mattered the most. And if that wasn't enough, why, in between that, she raised children, she wrote poetry, she wrote biographies, she published great American authors, and one other thing, she wrote the poem, Mary Had a Little Lamb. For she used to be a school teacher, and one of her children every day had a lamb follow her to school and wait for her. And that's where she started to write her poem. Now, she was bold and brave, but she had a secret weapon that we still use today. Sarah Hale had a pen, and she knew how to use that pen. When she saw something she didn't like, she picked up her pen and she wrote about it. She wrote letters, she wrote articles, she persuaded people to do things to make the world a better place. Nothing stopped Sarah Hale when she thought it was an important issue. She was a woman ahead of her time. Now, Sarah had always loved Thanksgiving, and she wanted the whole country to celebrate it on the same day. So when people started to give up on Thanksgiving and stop celebrating it altogether, why, it curdled her gravy. She picked up her pen and she started to write letters. She wrote thousands of letters asking politicians to make Thanksgiving a national holiday. And she wrote magazine articles asking her readers to give her some help. The women of America listened to her. They put down their children, they put down their skillets and their washing, and they picked up pens and they wrote letters. When the letters arrived, the politicians began to listen. And one by one, some of the states made Thanksgiving into a holiday. Soon, Sarah wanted the whole country to celebrate it on the same day. And so she went straight to the top with her letters. She wrote right to the president of the country. And the president then was Zachary Taylor. But he wouldn't listen. Did that stop? No, it did not. She waited for the next election, for the next president, Millard Fillmore. But he said no, too. But did that stop her? Indeed, it did not, for she was brave, and she was smart, and she was stubborn. And so she wrote to the next president, Franklin Pierce. Would national holidays ever include Thanksgiving? Not if Pierce had anything to say about it. No, indeed. She penned an elegant letter to the new president, President James Buchanan. She gave them all the reasons of why America should celebrate Thanksgiving in November. President Buchanan disagreed. He had other things on his mind. Sarah felt like the stuffing had been kicked out of her. Everything was going wrong. But very soon, there were more issues. America was at war. America was deep into the Civil War, and there were some very serious issues that were being talked about in our country. It was falling apart, and it was a very bleak and very scary time. But did that stop Sarah? It did not. No way. Nothing stopped Sarah. Superheroes work the hardest when the going gets tough. She picked up her pen and she wrote another letter. This time, she wrote the letter to President Abraham Lincoln. She said, America needs this Thanksgiving now more than ever. A holiday won't stop the war, but it will help the country to stay together. She signed the letter, folded it, slipped it in an envelope, wrote Mr. Lincoln's name on it, put a stamp, and mailed it. And then she waited, and she waited, and she waited. And then Lincoln said yes. Lincoln said yes. In 1863, President Lincoln made a national holiday, a day for all Americans to give thanks. It took Sarah 38 years, thousands of letters, countless bottles of ink, but she finally did it. Nothing stopped her. The bold, brave, stubborn lady saved Thanksgiving and made it for all of us. Thank you, Sarah. Way to go. You gave us Thanksgiving as a national holiday, and for that, we give thanks. So Sarah Hale is someone I'll bet you never heard of. Until I picked up this book, honestly, I had never heard of Sarah Hale. But the interesting thing is Sarah Hale was born in New Hampshire. She's a New Englander through and through. She fought for many issues other than Thanksgiving. So if you are looking for stories to read, you might want to ask the library if they have this book, Thank You, Sarah, by Laurie Halse Anderson. I know that some of the libraries have restricted access, but you can probably still call and see if they have this book. If you are in school, your school might have this book. This book is what we call a biography because it is a story about a real person who has done something. It is also nonfiction because it's based on fact. Do you know other people that you would like to read about this Thanksgiving? You can Google other characters who made Thanksgiving important. Google what Franklin Roosevelt did with Thanksgiving. That's another interesting story all by itself, and I will let you find that out. What did Franklin Roosevelt do to change Thanksgiving and how it works? So thank you for being good listeners. Once again, remember Sarah Hale, and we say, thank you, Sarah. Enjoy your day.